Good evening. You're watching The Last Word with me, Tanima Biswas, and our top focus on the show. Gujarat Police has filed a third case against the Hindu senior journalist Mahesh Langa. The latest case alleges fraud and intimidation based on the complaint of a business owner. Mahesh Langa had already been booked by the Gujarat Police in a theft case as well as a GST fraud case. Remember, the Enforcement Directorate has been conducting searches in Gujarat. A second round of searches were conducted by the agency 2 days back, and the Enforcement Directorate is now accusing Mahesh Langa of controlling a Benami firm, DA Enterprises. There are a web of cases centered around the journalist, and the agencies are now looking to join the dots to see whether there is a larger conspiracy. The Enforcement Directorate, in fact, alleges that there could also be corporate espionage at play over here. These are some of the aspects that all the agencies are looking at, the Gujarat Police as well as the ED. And we will, of course, shortly play out what the Gujarat Police had to say earlier today. But let's just take a look at some breaking updates coming in on this story. Right, so breaking update coming in on this, and what we are being given to understand by our sources is that the CBI is also likely going to join the probe in this matter. There's a multi-agency probe already underway. The Gujarat Police and the ED were involved. Now the CBI is also likely to be part of the investigations. I'm joined by my colleague Shrimi, who will bring us more updates on this new angle which is emerging. Shrimi, what's the latest that we have on this aspect that another agency might be roped in for investigations in this case?
Yeah, that's right. What we are picking up from our sources is that, this is going to be clearly a multi-agency probe where CBI could pick up this matter, keeping in mind the extortion and the corruption are involved. Remember, the corruption and extortion part is being dealt by the Central Bureau of Investigation. And what we are, getting indication from the CBI sources is that they are awaiting state police to sort of wrap up this matter and file prosecution complaint, or you can call it charge sheet in this particular matter, or the state government is likely to refer this matter to CBI, and from there CBI could pick up this case there. And meanwhile, Enforcement Directorate, which is looking at Prevention of Money Laundering Act and also the Hawala transaction at this point of time, is going to expand its probe, because they are also looking at the suspect Benami transaction from the DA Enterprises, which is controlled by Mahesh Langa. In fact, this whole issue started with the GST fraud matter on October 7th, where GST Central Authority in collaboration with state police has actually busted this whole ITC racket, which is wrongly claimed by Dhurvi Enterprises through 12 entities, including this DA Enterprise, which is controlled by Mahesh Langa. And what we are also hearing that the information may also go to Income Tax Department, because police has recovered some unaccounted cash from the DA Enterprises, which Income Tax may also look into.
Right, Shrimi. So one more agency which is being roped in for the investigation, CBI, likely to look into the corruption angle as well as the extortion angle, which are some of the aspects which are emerging. These are still early days in the investigation, but what we are being given to understand is that the ambit of the probe is likely to widen. Now, Shrimi, thank you so much for joining us with the breaking update on this story. Let's also listen in to what the Gujarat Police had to say earlier today after filing that third case against Mahesh Langa.
आज उसके खिलाफ हम एक और एफआईआर दाखिल करने जा रहे हैं। लगभग 28 लाख के करीब चीटिंग की एक एफआईआर, एक कंप्लेनेंट आया है। और उस एफआईआर की डिटेल से पहले मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि यहाँ हमने जो अभी तक इन्वेस्टिगेशन की है वो पुलिस बहुत ही प्रोफेशनली कर रही है, कोई उसमें डाउट नहीं है। इसकी डिटेल में बताना चाहूंगा। सबसे पहले तो इसमें जो जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट की तरफ से एक एफआईआर दाखिल करी गई थी 7 अक्टूबर को। उसके बाद महेश लांगा और कुछ एसोसिएट्स को अरेस्ट किया गया, घर पे उसके सर्च की गई। उसके घर पे करीब 20 लाख कैश मिले, कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स, इंक्रिमिनेटिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स मिले। नई जो एफआईआर है ये चीटिंग की है। चीटिंग एक वन पर्सन जिसने कि पैसे दिए थे लगभग 28 लाख के, और उसने उनका काम नहीं किया और पैसे वापस नहीं दिए। अब उसे पता लगा कि महेश लांगा अरेस्ट हो गया है, तो ये कम फॉरवर्ड और उसने एक एफआईआर हमने दाखिल उसकी अभी कर रहे हैं।
To discuss this further, I'm joined on the show by Neeja Chaudhary, senior journalist, and Anurag Naidu, political analyst. Thank you to both of you for joining me on this discussion. Coming to you first, Neeja, what are your initial thoughts about the way the case is progressing?
Look, from what the early information that's coming, that for an editor of a major newspaper, national newspaper, to be picked up, I mean, I don't understand extortion, corruption, and what worries me is that he's been charged for getting access to confidential papers, having those in his hands. Now, being certainly, we've all had access to papers that have, been government or have been leaked to us, or have been shown such papers in the discharge of our duties, which is to bring accurate, free, and fair information to the public, to our viewer, to our reader. And that is part of our job to do and to check that it is correct. And if he's being charged, I mean, we need more information on what has been happening. But if he's being charged for, if certain bureaucrats have given him information and certain bureaucrats are under the scanner, and for a journalist to have FIRs and agencies go for him, I mean, I find this very, very worrying. And it's also true that reputed agencies of representing the journalists and media persons, whether it's Editors Guild of India, whether it's the Press Club of India, whether it's the Indian Women's Press Corps, whether it's the editor of the Hindu, I mean, these are credible names in the journalistic profession today. They have expressed their anxiety, their worry, their concern that this is happening, and that the charges against him be dropped. So I find this, of course, as I say, more information needs to come out. But to take this kind of multi-agency action against a senior journalist who seems to be doing his duty and bringing information to the public domain, as I say, is not is not a development that one is happy about at all.
All right.
Because this is a free country. I mean, this is a parliamentary democracy. Free media. We're supposed to be doing our work.
Right. Neeja, these are the opening comments, of course, from Neeja's side. Let me take the question now to Mr. Naidu. Anurag Naidu, the Hindu as well as the Editors Guild, taking off on the point that Neeja Chaudhary was making, both the Hindu as well as the Editors Guild have also pointed out that it's a journalist's right to deal with papers which may have sensitive information. This is part of the process that many journalists would follow in terms of researching on a story, in terms of getting a scoop. So there's a possibility that the documents which are under scanner by the Gujarat police were part of his research for a particular story. That angle is there, which is a point which several journalists are raising and will continue to raise.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show, Tanima, first of all. All these concerns, whatever Neerja ji is telling, whatever has been raised by Editors Guild of India or the Press Council and everything, first of all, you have to understand, journalism is a very important pillar of this democracy, and journalists are not sacrosanct, right? So although, the fact of the matter is, yes, the job requires you to have access or lay access to certain important and confidential documents at times, because you are working as in a profession which is in public interest by and large, but it cannot be ruled out that you will use of the document that you would possess would purely be on the basis of an ethics, or it purely will be the discretion of your own ethics. I mean, it also depends on the individual. Of an individual working for a reputed media agency, in this case maybe Hindu or maybe something else, does not entitle you from the fact that you cannot claim yourself to be sacrosanct and above the lines of jurisdiction in this country. The fact of the matter is CP coming out and look at the state. I mean, for me, what's more worrying is in the times that we live in, 20 lakh rupees of cash found, the account violations and GST fraud. You need to understand GST is one of the most meticulously run agency today. Every bit of money can be tracked. Everything is digitized. And if you have the first FIR coming from GST, I'm sure it is not just like that. And what are the allegations, right? If CBI is coming in, if they are telling that it may be a matter of a corporate espionage. These are serious allegations, and we have had several instances in the past where journalists have been involved in lobbying, journalists have been involved in corporate affairs and in influencing the corridors of power. We cannot rule away. The fact of the matter is, what I would expect for the agencies that are backing the gentleman is to go out like we do for all other cases. Go out and watch out for the jurisdiction, watch out for the courts, take this matter to the trial, go to the depth of the investigation and find out for the people what's true and what's not true, because it is really important for the people. Of course you all come in. I really don't understand, at times we take moral high ground telling,
Right.
देखो भैया VIP culture hai, you're not paying the tolls. We have a state elections in Maharashtra, they've all requested for the toll waiver. We see many, I would say many schemes from the government, whereas we also
Right.
need to step up as a moral responsibility, be open to the investigation, be
Okay.
open to the idea of being investigated.
Yes, we understand that these are early days in the investigation, and Neerja ma'am also commented on the same thing. But taking some of these points over to Neerja now, the ED has clearly said that they are probing a larger conspiracy, even looking at an angle of corporate espionage, as Mr. Naidu was also mentioning over there. Now, some of the charges, as he was also pointing out, that there are 3 cases. There's one on GST fraud, there's also a case on theft charges, and a third case which was filed, the latest case to be filed, in terms of cheating and criminal intimidation. Now, since there are these angles and these charges at play, should this case be seen clear only from the ambit of a journalist's rights being infringed, or is there a need for us to hold our horses? Neerja.
Look, of course, a journalist is not above law. That goes without saying. But when a journalist is involved and a journalist is doing his duty, in the course of doing his duty, which I say is ferreting out information and bringing it to public view, then a case like this has now come to light with major media agencies expressing their concern, then it becomes very important for the agencies to bring to give the details of what they are finding, maybe even take these a body like Editors Guild of India into confidence about what their investigation is about, what it's yielded. And I think because it is a senior member of the media involved, and that in a parliamentary democracy does cause a lot of concern. And therefore, I would say the details of the investigation must be in the public domain also.
Exactly. And that was, in fact, my question to, that was going to be my question to Anurag Naidu, that the second FIR particularly has, in fact, been pointed out that it's not accessible to the public online. Possibly, the police are basically saying that this relates to some sensitive information in some documents. Now, but the concerns rise from the fact that there's a lot of opaqueness. Should the details not be made public so that some of these questions, which are concerns being raised by the journalists, can also be addressed? So there needs to be a more transparent approach, which the agencies and the police should follow?
Well, I think these are, it is really unfair to ask for an openness at this point in time, particularly when the investigation has just started, because in situations like this, we tend to open it up to a media trial, public trial, and a lot of other opinions come in, and that really disturbs the flow of investigation. We've often seen media being misused to influence certain cases, misused to influence, peddle certain narratives, and this has been the trend. I think in interest of fair and transparent investigation, like the CP also the Gujarat police mentioned, and of course CBI is now being involved, I think it should absolutely be left to the agencies and their discretion. And one very important point that comes in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was just reading the report of Editors Guild, the media, the press release of Editors Guild and Nirja ji did mention about taking them into conference.
Right.
If I'm not wrong, they were mentioning about dropping off an FIR. And you cannot go and request an agency to drop off an FIR. I mean, an FIR is an FIR. It has its own sanctity. I think it's okay. I mean, let's be open to investigation. Nothing wrong. And let us uphold to the highest, level of our professionalism. And we all, I mean, as a media fraternity, I really respect some of the great gentlemen and ladies out there who's doing great job. But it is a collective responsibility to, hold ourselves, hold our horses, and let the investigation take its own course. Because the
Okay.
multi-agency investigation is very important. You can accuse of a state police of doing something wrong, or maybe you can accuse of one
Okay.
particular agency, CBI or ED. But when there's a multi-agency, definitely it's a cross-functional team, and I'm sure you will have the right information coming out in the course of time.
All right. Neerja Chaudhary, Anurag Naidu, thank you so much for joining us on the first discussion of the show.